Okay, it's 10 a.m. Welcome everybody to the agenda for the meeting of the Coachella/Indio Waste Transfer Station Joint Power Authority for Wednesday, June 12th, 10 a.m. at the Indio Council Chambers. Motion, well, there's no Pledge of Allegiance. No Pledge of Allegiance today? Okay. Okay. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. If we can have Gary Gardner lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this morning.
You're very kind. Good morning. Please join me in saluting our flag. Place your hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
And thank you, Gary, for that. Can do approve of the agenda. At this time, the authority may announce any items being pulled from the agenda or continue to another date or request the moving of an item on the agenda. How does the commission, the staff? Okay. First, motion and a second. Unanimous consent is fine? Okay. Unanimous consent, I'll say aye. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Call to order and roll call.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Present.
Commissioner Hernandez. Vice Chair Miller.
Present.
Chairperson Figueroa.
Present. Okay, next that's approval of the minutes. And hear a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll abstain. I wasn't here for the last
Okay.
one.
An abstention.
Sorry?
No, the minutes. Oh yeah, it is approval of the minutes. Yeah.
I thought we were done.
That's right. She did tell me when I walked in how to use the system. It's there, but it doesn't go up. Oh, there it is.
Motion carries with Ortiz abstaining.
Okay.
And 0.
Oh, okay. Noted. This time we do public comments. The public may address the authority on any items of interest to the public that is not on the agenda but is within the same subject matter jurisdiction thereof. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Open the public comments at
There are none.
none. Okay, 10:02. Seeing none, I'll move on to item number 5, presentations. We don't have any presentations today, or then move on to new business calendar, legislative, administrative.
Good morning. The budget in front of you for consideration today represents a slight decrease from last year. While the tonnage decrease from last year is slight, most of the funding decrease is due to trying to increase the non-restrictive funds for the JPA for future JPA needs. So it includes the annual costs for administration, legal costs. Those are all represented within the budget. And mainly this increases the non-restricted funds, which will be needed within a few years, deciding where the transfer station, if we buy the land or if you decide to lease. So that's the budget for next year. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer the budget recommendation. Thank you.
Other way over, where the light is. It was on. It's red.
It's on now when it's red. Gabe, there's a lot of technology enhancements here that we don't have in Coachella, but I guess it's okay. So as we look at our long-term just strategic approach here, so this is the first year that we're starting to put dollars away, or is this the second year?
This is the second year.
Okay. And then we're anticipating probably next 5 years to kind of get us to where we need to be, or what's the long-term strategy?
Ultimately, we have 2 more years. Next year is when Riverside County will let the JPA know what the costs to purchase the land will be and what would be the lease option. They'll let us know sometime mid next year, July, August, and then the JPA has one, I think 90 days after receiving that information to let them know if or which option you would prefer.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we'll get there, but we should start thinking about options and how we can approach that. Either it's a straight up buy, or I don't know, for bonding, or I don't know if maybe we can stagger, payments over the course or something like that. But whatever those options are, I think they're good to know ahead of time. And I think for us, in terms of our cities, we're growing, and we're going to continue to grow. At least the way this downtown's taken off, and so it's a good thing to have that option.
Good, Frank. And so, do we have a budget of what we're anticipating the cost are for the expansion and everything else? Kind of a rough one. Obviously, we know pretty much what the land's worth now. If that's what, obviously the county can't sell it to us for anything more than what the land value is. And we talked about expansion. This money that we're setting aside, is that for the land only, or is that partway for the expansion and where we're going to go with it?
This money would be for the land only unless there's some excess. So we'll keep putting the money away again next year, hopefully for whatever we need for the expansion. The cost for the actual improvements, we looked at that several years ago, and that was around, I believe, $3 million for just the improvements on the transfer station that we wanted to do. But now those dollars, of course, won't go as far. And that is also something we need to talk with Burtech about to figure out how exactly that will be funded. That's not, I don't have that for you today, but it is something that we'll be talking about very soon.
So we do have a larger pot that we're going to have to either pull from one way or the other. None of the funding that we have here is going to make a dent in that yet. Even if we gave it all back, we still would come up short of what we're able to look at.
If we were to pay for all of the improvements in the land, yes.
Okay. All right. Just trying to gauge this for later on, because once we have that obligation, and if it's end up being $3 or $4 million, and we each have to split that, then looking at where we're going to take it from, and that just gives us an opportunity to kind of start planning now to get it done.
And if I could add, Mr. Chairman, it also gives us an opportunity to kind of look at other approaches, such as other people's money, state of California, also the federal government. I know a member up here has a really good relationship with someone that's on the finance committee or appropriations committee, can do pretty good things, so hopefully we can kind of move things that way. But anyhow, the more information we know, the better it will be in terms of our strategies.
Understood.
Any other questions, Commissioner Ortiz?
No question. I would think one thing that I did notice was that we've been now on the decrease for the second year in a row, where in the past we were consistently increasing, right? And so that's good environmentally. Financially, is there any concern with that number? Does it affect any of our projections that we've made in the past going forward?
Not at this point. The
pretty
decrease
small.
is too minor. We really expect the revenues to be stable, just like about what it was last time, and moving into this year without much fluctuation.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. There's no other questions. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2024-01, approving the fiscal year 2024-2025 recommended budget.
I'll second that.
And then you all can vote on the magical box.
We are sophisticated here.
The motion.
Motion carries.
Thank you. On to the next item, 6.2, efforts to reinstate the tipping fee to support the Coachella Valley Multiple Species Habitat Conversation Plan.
Yeah, there's a staff report. It was from CBAG. Yeah. So,
Mr. Gardner. Okay.
Good afternoon, or good morning, gentlemen. I am here from Coachella Valley Association of Governments, the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission. My name is Kathleen Brundage. I'm the Director of Conservation. We have brought the staff report to you about twice before. This is the efforts to reinstate the tipping fee to support the MSHCP. In 2021, you specifically had asked for us to give a review of what was going on. So there was a waste transfer agreement that that you had, as well as a county, the county specific lease agreement. The county lease agreement, even before the plan was passed in 2008, included a tipping fee, a $1 per ton tipping fee that would support the mitigation for waste generated within the plan area. That particular tipping fee was incorporated into your overall agreements from 2000. I think 2005 was the first agreement to 2015. 2015, when it was amended, it allowed for the tipping fee to also cover waste that was taken outside of the county, and that was collected up until the agreement ended in 2021. So since 2021, we weren't really notified that the agreement had actually been amended to reduce the tipping fee or eliminate the tipping fee. And when we had found out, it was actually through an administrative process where our director of finance had contacted the JPA to actually change over the tipping fees that we were collecting from CVAG, which was part of the original agreement, to CVCC, which has changed over as the JPA in charge of administration of the plan. So at that point, we had found that the agreement had ended in June 2021, and so we had started trying to talk with you about reinstating the tipping fee. So we had come to you back in June and then October to talk about this. And so here is the staff report in front of you. There's some options here. You could add the tipping fee, the dollar tipping fee, back into the agreement you have with Burtech, or you can amend the lease agreement with the county to add it back in there. So there's some options here. At this point, we've lost about a little bit over $350,000 since the tipping fee has been removed. And just to be clear, that tipping fee is to mitigate for waste resources because the approved permits for running the waste transfer GPA and the transfer station are through the county. So that lease agreement should have included it. And it was included from 2015 to 2021 when waste was being removed from the county to the current place where it is. So with that, there's a recommendation within your staff report to include either the tipping fee as part of the agreement with Burtech, or to also have $1.25 added as opposed to $1, so that it would help to resume those funds and recoup the foregone revenues. And with that, I have my chair, Gary Gardner from our CVCC, and he would like to say a couple words too.
Yeah, Gary.
Yeah.
Gary has a request to speak, so you can come on.
We also have our Director of Finance here, so if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to see everybody today. My name's Gary Gardner. I serve on the Desert Hot Springs City Council, but I also am here today as chair of the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission. We administer, as you know, the Coachella Valley Multi-Species Conservation Plan, which the tipping fees help fund. And since the JPA had stopped collecting it, we've lost $374,000, roughly $11,000 a month. And the current rate at $1 a ton, we're asking you to reinstate that and increase it anywhere to $1.25, $1.52, whatever you're comfortable with. There's a marginal impact on your residents at that. At $1 a ton, it works out to about 10 cents per household per month, or $1.20 a year. So I don't think you're placing a burden on your residents by increasing the tipping fee to bring back and make the Conservation Commission whole again. Our budget is on the agenda again tomorrow, just like yours was here today. So we're hoping that you guys will pass this today, and that these funds are going to be critical for the monitoring and management of the conservation land. Now, you all represent two of the cities that benefit the most next to mine for the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission Multiple Species Habitat Conservation Plan. Our three cities are the ones that benefit the most. So we're hoping to get this done today, get us back on track, and like Katie said, we've got Claude and her, who are our staff experts here if you have any questions. So thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the commission? Or are you going to give us some?
Just finishing the presentation.
Okay, yeah.
Hi, I'm Claude Kilgore, the Finance Director with the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission. Nice to see you all. I just wanted to point out a staff report that I don't believe any of you attended our Finance Committee meeting for the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission, but that took place. Councilmember Elaine Holmes sits on that committee from the city of Indio, so I'm not sure if anyone caught that, but I did want to point out we had a staff report in there about suggested member contributions to support the plan because these tipping fees were integral to the funding mechanisms of the plan when it was instituted, and they're coming in far below what was originally expected. And, that was one topic we presented to the Finance Committee. I know Chair Gardner's on that as well. And just wanted to kind of highlight a few items here that if we aren't able to reinstate these tipping fees, like I said, we'll have a deficit in the administration fund. And the plan does call for other mechanisms for alternative funding. I'm just going to read through a few of those that we threw out to the committee. They're not going anywhere at this time because we're hoping to solve it by other means, but I'll just read some of those now that were originally in the plan below list of possibilities. Tipping fee revenue from an extension of the period for which the Habitat Conservation Fund tipping fee is committed to the MSHCP implementation from the current year's 72 years to 75 years, so a little increase there. Tipping fee revenue from an increase in the Habitat Conservation Fund tipping fee. Sales tax revenues if Measure A is extended beyond 2038. Revenue from the establishment of a habitat maintenance district. Revenue from the establishment of a benefit assessment district. Revenue from the establishment of a community facilities district. And revenue from the establishment of a community services district. So those were just some of the things that we initially highlighted as not wanting to get to, but I just want to throw out. So we are looking on our end also how we can help some of that funding, and we would hope this JPA can help us too.
Okay, any comments from the commission on this item?
I have a comment, a few, and I think that there's some points of clarity, and I think we've talked about this a lot, and the original tipping fee that was collected was never with this JPA because we didn't control the gates. The gates were controlled by the county, and if you think about option, I think 2, we're in a place where probably in a few years we're going to buy the transfer station from the county. I hope so. So we'll probably be in the same predicament with respect to having somebody collect the tipping fees again.
Yes.
So in terms of our options, I think just getting like going with Burtec, because Burtec's been our long-term, user of the tipping fees, or collect. Well, they're our partner. So. The one thing that's just a little troubling for me is that we're not the fiduciary. Like it's, and we're not. And I get the argument by some of my colleagues and say, oh, you make the JPA pay. It wasn't our job to collect them in the first place. And so why should we pay? Now if the conversation is to reinstate it, because we're gonna be a good contributor, we're going to pay our part into the MSHCP. I agree. All right, we asked for certain things, which any jurisdiction or any entity that's going to join the MSHCP. So, for example, if a new city forms, guess what the CVCC is going to have to do? The CVCC is going to have to go and strike an MOU with that new city so that they can start paying into the CVCC. Mm-hmm. It wasn't our fault that the contracts that were, or the agreements that were put in place with the county weren't transferred over to us. And can you blame us? Like, hey, if they didn't come and say, hey, you got to do this, why should we do it? So my point is to all of you at the CVCC, you're the fiduciaries of your own money, as we are with the health and vitality of this JPA. Now I get it. Government, we're supposed to work together. I get that. But at the same time, it's incumbent upon each government to collect their money. And Claude, it was actually through an administrative error, right? Or oversight when you were going through your numbers and saying, hey, what happened to these 300,000? It was kind of by mistake that you found out that the dollars weren't here. And now we're trying to rectify it. So I'm in agreement.
I do want to correct that. So that was a question that was asked at the CVCC meeting, and I had answered. Actually, we were still getting the tipping fees, and
From who? The county?
From the county. They were still collecting them from the JPA after 2021, June 2021, and it was only until we identified that hey, the oversight they should go to CVCC as opposed to CVAG, that they said, well, wait a minute, our agreement ended in June 2021. So there was an administrative oversight there. But we were still getting the tipping fees as part of the budget for our revenues at the time.
So why didn't you guys come in 2020 and 2019 to start renewing that?
We didn't actually have notification that the county waste transfer agreement, or I'm sorry, the lease agreement was ending with you guys until after 2021. So whether it was pandemic or whether it was the confusion of all of that, that particular agreement was not. We didn't get notified that it got changed.
And just for your
Sorry, quick question. When you're mentioning then the payback period that we're looking at, what years was that what were the years that you're looking for us to pay back now?
So we actually reimbursed you all the way back to June 2021.
You
So
reimbursed us.
reimbursed the county.
So the county paid you, and then
Yeah.
they said,
We
we
had to
don't
give
have
them-
anything mechanism, give us our money back.
Correct.
Gotcha.
So they actually paid you, and then we get the money back. That's a different story.
Yeah. So I wanted to clarify that because that was a point of confusion at the meeting as well, at the CVCC meeting. So, but without the agreement in place, the lease agreement, then there's obviously some complications with, either reinstating the fee, or one of the options that we have given you is obviously that we can add it to the BIRTAC. And we've talked with BIRTAC, and they didn't seem to have an issue with that at all. So.
Frank's right there.
One quick question here. What is the agreement outside of the tipping fee that I guess requires us to pay this tipping fee to the CVCC?
It's a great question. As part of permittees for the plan, every permittee signs part onto
For which plan?
For the Coachella Valley Multiple Species Habitat Conservation Plan. Okay. And that plan offers covered projects for our permittees. And as part of that covered projects, we provide mitigation through land acquisition, management and monitoring of reserves, and payment of either agency mitigation fees or tipping fees. So as part of the different, for say Caltrans has an agency mitigation fee that's required under the plan for their covered projects. So this plan went in effect in 2008. It was there was a major amendment that went through in 2016 that added Desert Hot Springs to the plan. But there is also, so if you go through the plan, there's a number of covered projects that each one of your cities benefits from. And also anything outside of the conservation area as you're developing, it streamlines that process. So you don't have to go through the ESA permits, the Endangered Species Act permits for fringe-toed lizards and burrowing owls and all of that stuff. So it's all of those are accompanied as part of what CVCC does for you in terms of negotiating with the wildlife agencies. Without the plan, each project would actually have to go to the wildlife agencies individually and get permits. And that's just to discuss.
Our cities are partners, and we pay. Each city, Coachella's a partner. We pay.
Yes.
We pay.
Each one of you pays. Each of the cities pays LDMF fees outside of the conservation areas for your development, and that helps to go into a pot that allows us to provide land acquisition and land improvement. But those funds tend to be mostly restricted towards that. And then so the tipping fees specifically as part of the funding for the plan were envisioned for operations, for maintenance, for management and monitoring, as our chair has mentioned.
And
So,
then, question on that plan, that agreement with that plan, does it have the legal requirement for us to contribute through these tipping fees? And I guess that question is both for our staff and for CVAG staff.
yeah, so the reason that it was incorporated in the 2015 to the 2021 agreement is that the county does have a legal requirement to collect the tipping fee as part of their implementation agreement to the plan. And so somehow it got removed from the amendment after 2021, and that's why we're trying to approach you today and say that this has got to be rectified.
Sarah?
Yeah.
Good.
Real
Sorry,
quick,
just want to hear from Sarah first
Yeah.
as
Okay.
well.
There is not a direct agreement right now between the JPA and the CDCC.
Correct.
So,
Right, just the county and the JP. So the county waste management are the ones who have the permits to run the transfer station under the CEQA that's analyzed as part of the plan, so.
So let me ask you a question. If the county is obligated to do it, why would you give the money back? Just because they haven't collected it from us, they're obligated, is what you're saying, or is the city's obligated?
Well, so the reason was because we didn't have an agreement in place, and so they had asked for the money back. That agreement took us this long to get to you guys to understand that the agreement needs to be amended. So it's been 2 years now, so.
But you said the county's obligated to do it. So the county's obligated.
The county's,
If they collected it from us or not, they're obligated, is what you said.
well, they have to collect it as part of tonnage generated in the plan area, so. If the tonnage is coming through the waste transfer station, they would collect it from the waste transfer station.
But they're still obligated.
They're
Legally.
obligated, yes.
To collect
They're
it.
If they
implementing
collect
the
it from
agreement.
us or not, they're still obligated because the waste went through the transfer station. Even though we run it, they're obligated.
Yes,
So
which means that
technically, they're on-
effectively that they can collect it from you
And
regardless.
part of it was we would take that responsibility from them and do it because we are the purveyors of the JPA, is what it sounds like to me.
So it really goes back on how our trash flows. So when the trash gets collected, it goes to the transfer station, correct, Sarah? And this JPA collects it. And then when we're gonna dump the trash to the dump, it goes through the county gates to the county landfill, correct?
Some county landfills.
Well, that's what happened here. That instead of going to the county landfill, it went to Imperial
Imperial's
landfill.
But if that was the case, then why did you pay the fee for 2015 to 2021?
Because the transfer
That's why we changed our
started in
lease.
21.
No, the transfer, so in your 2015 agreement, you were also paying for trash that went outside of the county.
Frank, I probably we could get a clarity from you on this issue.
Yeah, so what happened when the
Yeah, give the mic,
And-
kid,
and-
Frank.
and-
For the people online.
Honorable Chair, members of the board or commission, Frank Rolette, Vice President Burtek, what happened was when the WDA expired with the county, right? So the county allowed the JPA to go to an out-of-county landfill through a WDA agreement. With that WDA agreement, it was included in the Sultan agreement to have the money collected and passed back to the county. When that ended, and the county no longer had, the JPA decided we're not going to be part of the county system, and they had an agreement with Sultan that wasn't included in the Sultan agreement. That's how it's.
So when did it change and when did you stop collecting the fees? When we went to the lease or when we went to Imperial to dump the fees?
When we
Dump the trash?
when we amended our agreement, I can't remember, it might have been 2021 or 22.
And then that's when we started to go to Imperial and
Well, you
dump-
were going to Imperial already, but it was in that, it was part of the Imperial, it's part of the agreement with Sultan.
Okay.
Once the county decided they didn't want the waste anymore, and the JPA was free to take it wherever they wanted to take it, so, and it went out of county, that's when it wasn't included any longer.
Perfect. Thank you.
And the argument on CVAC's point is, well, you owe us that money.
Well,
We never did.
well, does that agreement show though that even when we take to go dump outside of the county, that fee is still owed?
Yes.
That's,
What agreement?
So the WDA from 2015, so the lease agreement that you had with the county. So that one went from 2015, it was I think, a fourth amendment, because you've had a number of amendments on that lease agreement, just off the top of my head. So it's the one that you signed in 2015 with the county. And that one went through 2021, and then was, as you just heard,
Wasn't renewed.
wasn't renewed.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean that the permits for the waste transfer station, though, are being fulfilled for their mitigation requirements under the county. So that's kind of where we are. So I guess to highlight Representative Miller's point, us coming directly to you would, simplify the process. But if that's not going to be the case, then we will actually have to probably go to the county, and then they'll have to figure out how to rectify it between you and the JPA.
So then the next question becomes is this, does this JPA become a permittee into the plan, not an individual city? Because as I understand it, JPAs are legal authorities. And so now do we have to follow a new major amendment and include this JPA into as a permittee? Because if the county's no longer covering us, and your argument is that
the alternative would be that when you purchase the station, if you're purchasing the land and you would run the station outside of the county's lease agreement, then at that point you would provide your own coverage under the permit. So you could either be covered under the plan, or you could go to the wildlife agencies yourself with the CEQA and basically mitigate for what you need to do.
Yeah.
That would be in addition to the plan.
that could be an option. And but here's what.
But we still have until 2026 until that, or
I know,
sounds like until that happens.
But here's where I'm getting to, and this is where I don't like kind of the angle CVAC's taking. It's like, hey, if this JPA legally, it's right now it's no longer covered under the county, and it's its own legal entity under the plan, etc. But then CVAC's taking the kind of the angle saying, well, if you don't pay what's owed, then I'm going to take it out of your city as a permittee. And I'm like, I don't like that type of talk, because the cities are paying.
I don't think we want to take it out of the cities. I do want to.
So the conversation that Claude said about Measure A and how we collect this other stuff. Yeah. So guess who gets the Measure A? It's the cities, not the JPA.
That's part of the plan language, though, and the implementing agreement that all of the cities and permittees signed on to. If the tipping fees are not adequate to run the operation of the plan, there's all of those options that we can go into, including special tax districts. We can ask for funds from each one of the cities, and we can reassess the whole plan in terms of what we need for the LDMF, which could raise the LDMF. And yes, it does come out of the other permittees' pockets. So at this point, because the tipping fee has not been negotiated for the couple of years, it has actually triggered an analysis fiscally for us now, under the Wildlife Agency's concern that we're not in compliance with the plan. So if we can't fund the plan, then all of those permits tend to be in jeopardy. And so that's all we're here to try to identify is really, if this tipping fee doesn't get reinstated, even for the next 2 years, to help us give us time to reanalyze what that is. We're pretty much in a situation where we have a full analysis of either a nexus study or a number of those, as you heard, special tax districts that has to fund this portion of the funding that we don't have. So.
Let me, if I could.
Yes, sir, Chairman.
So let me ask you a question. So you have the fund. How much money is in the fund now?
What fund? Which fund?
The mitigation fund. How much money is sitting in this account?
For the Riverside County Fund? So this The tipping fees go to Riverside County. I don't actually know how much is in the Conservation Trust Fund from
You're,
the.
you're talking about running out of cash, so I'm just curious how much money's in
Oh,
the
yeah.
account.
Here you go. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It helps fund the general operating costs
so
of the
it
plan.
helps the administration run.
That's
is what
right.
you're trying to tell me.
Yes, it's in the
Okay.
general administration part of the plan.
And I'm not against doing it. I mean, it's this, the obligation of the fees. A couple things that come to mind for me is, first off, you know, the city of Indio is 20-some% of this, where Indian Wells is 2. So, you know, when you talk about overall dollars once we pay, the city of Indio, because we're the largest city, pays almost the most. I think the county's number 1, we're number 2. So we pay a large portion as being the largest city. So other than this thing, if we really wanted to get to nuts and bolts, we could say we're paying our large share of it, because really the trash is getting hauled out of our county and going to the other part. I'm not against it. I'm just saying if we want to go nuts and bolts, it's not really equal, because not every city pays the same amount because they're not as big. So, you know, we pay a large portion of it. Not against paying things back and doing this stuff. My concern on the thing is how we get the other portion of the money back. The $1 I think is our obligation, going back with that. I'm personally not a problem with it. The second part I had a problem with is that you guys didn't catch it. That you have a multi-million-dollar fund that's generating money, and somebody for over a year or however long it took you guys to get it didn't reconcile the money that comes in from Burtech and other thing and say, well, you know, Burtech, we got a check for $50,000 this month, and last month we got $90,000. I would think that there would be somebody in there that would be looking at that funding on a continual basis, because it's not like you get checks all the time from all different agencies where it'd be 400 different checks coming in and you're looking at 400 trying to balance it. You got one big check coming from Burtech and nobody caught it for over a year at least. And I think that, to me, speaks volume about how much money's coming in and how the checks and balances is being done. So after you acknowledge it to us, yes, that's on us, that money that wasn't collected. But the other part, it gives me pause.
Just a clarification there. The money comes from the county for this. It averaged about 10 to 13,000 a month. So we were tracking that. You're right. There's administrative error between all the parties in that agreement that CVAG, CVCC identified and brought it to the attention of all those other parties. And that error probably would have continued had we not done that. So I'm glad we did. And we have the numbers that came from the county, not Burtech, who took it back from us.
So that's where I wanted to go with this, is they were getting the money, but no one ever caught that the tipping fee was administratively removed and not re-added.
No.
And so that's where I want to, you know, just circle back that the whole problem starts because of a one line item, right? It's a sentence that was missing, right? And
I'm
so
sorry, could you just explain that again?
you were getting the money, right? You said, so that's why, Glenn brings a right point. It's like, no one's auditing, right? When you're getting money, and if it's consistent, you were never going to find out that you were not going to get paid, because it was not even in the funding piece. It was in a legal document that no one actually probably read, or I don't know what happened, but that's a matter of the fact. I think the important thing here is that we need to make sure that our two cities benefit a lot from this item, because while, Indio pays a majority of it, right? What is that benefit that the city's going to get, right? And so I think protecting the wildlife is important for generations to come. And so I think, I agree with Glenn, is how do we, I'm okay with the $1 also. Is that $340,000, right? Is that what the number is that we've been reading?
Chair Figueroa, could you clarify what you meant when you said Indio pays the majority of it? It's based on the tonnage.
Of course, but still, if you look at that pie chart in the
Is that
I'm looking at the LDMF.
That's a separate. That's
Correct.
A separate part of the plan that doesn't fund administration.
Correct.
Okay.
Land purchases.
But even still, us being the largest city, we're going to put the volume of trash we give, and I'm sure Frank can verify that, is massive compared to most other cities, just because of the sheer volume.
And that
residents.
is the highest volume impact to the conservation area as well.
Right.
Correct. And so, this is to fund your administrative, but, Gary in his comments said that at the end of the year, residents are probably going to see a $1.20 increase if they're going to use it, right? And so I think, I'm okay, because people are not going to really see a burden, in the world we live in today, where, an apple costs $3 now, and inflation is going crazy, $1.20, and then tonnage isn't going to, while it might look like a lot when you go up to there and you're like, why am I paying this now? And it used to be only this. Long term, right? And I think, the bigger thing is, how do we make sure that administratively you don't have any more oversight issues, right? And so what does that look like internally for your organization as well?
Sure.
So,
I'd love to answer that question. Again, who were the other parties of the agreement, Katie? Where the error occurred?
So it was originally with the county waste and a lease agreement with the actual authority. So the original transfer station and Coachella, I guess you would call it landfill.
And to answer your question, Chair Figueroa, I had just entered the agency at that time, because you asked a specifically good one. And so we had some turnover, and we learned that. I actually identified right before the agreement was expiring, and that's why they took the money back from us. We're also instituting a new enterprise resource planning system that's going to be implemented starting in July. So I feel the administrative operations at the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission and the Association of Governments is really strong right now. And I think we have a lot of elected officials who sit on our finance committee, including one here, that would also back that up. So I'd be happy to put you in touch with anyone, or if you want to come by our offices, you're more than welcome to any day of the week. I'm there except for Wednesdays. Typically I work from home. Here today, though.
thank you. Any other comments from the commission?
No, I think I do have a concern with, because, I raised this issue to our legal staff this morning, and there is some concern on the legalities, not only of if we have to pay the extra money back, there's concern on both sides, right? But also the way in which that fee is collected. And I think that the current structure of it wouldn't work, right? So I think for today, we can all agree that the $1 should be implemented right away, right? The extra part, I think we still need to go back and study that issue a bit more, because I think even if we agreed that 125 to 150 should be paid back, should be started now, this mechanism here wouldn't work, at least according to my legal staff. So if we can go back and I don't know if there's willingness to set another meeting for that extra fee here. I'm willing to hear that out and have our legal staff look a little bit deeper into the legal requirement of us paying that back, but also the legal requirement of how it will be paid back, how it would be paid back, right? So I think right now one of the good things that we can do to move forward is go forward with the $1 and then come back. I don't know if maybe we can set a special meeting in a month or so.
Let our staff look it over with.
Let our staff look it over.
Coachella's lawyers and ours.
Yeah, we don't need to set a special meeting. I mean, those are great points, and that's would it be considered a gift of public funds? Like, why would we pay something that we weren't legally entered into?
Well, yeah, I think one of the issues as well is if we're collecting fees, those have to be a direct payment to a service, right? If we have somebody that just moved into the city and now they're back paying stuff for the owner that used to live there, then it's a legal issue for us as well. So I think that's where the mechanism part comes in. But I think we can figure it out, right? But I think, go ahead, sir.
Yes, we absolutely can figure it out. We can set another meeting, that's not an issue, and we do want to work with with legal staff. Today, if you reinstate $1, it cannot take effect until next year. There's no way as far as the rates need to be set every year and the timing and the noticing that goes with that can be changed at this point. It can absolutely begin next year, and that gives us the time to work with legal staff to have an agreement, if that's what legal needs, but something in writing that explains why we pay this, or has some sort of
Nexus.
direct. So we can work on that. There will be time. I will set another meeting, and we can move forward.
So this isn't going to be collected till next year, January 1st, I take it, or our fiscal
1st.
year, July 1st. So it's our fiscal year. Okay.
But I think the $1.25 would be. I understand, and I hear my fellow commissioners, the legality component of it, but it's also, due diligence and, for the environment. And so, it's ultimately, we still have to wait another year. So if we were to come back, we set the $1 and say yes about that, but then we have another meeting, we potentially could still implement the $1.25 for the 7/1/25.
Or whatever we.
Or whatever rate we whatever
This
ultimate.
buys us time to
Okay.
make sure we make the right decision
Okay.
legally for both our agencies and
That is
the county.
But just for a point of clarity, this isn't about the critters. This is about administration fee for them, as they said it. And our cities, Coachella, Indio, are paying into the MSACP as everybody pulls permits. Well, they get their fee. Now, this is just, we're being asked to clean up an administrative oversight, and I love the legal angle. And it's an important one as fiduciaries of this JPA, because we wouldn't want to give them the money and then get sued for something that we can't do. So it's a good conversation.
Yeah, so I think we go back and agree to the $1 tipping fee to be enacted, I guess it would be July 1st of 2025 is how it would look at, and then give us the obligation to go back and look at what the mechanism will be and how we can repay. Now it would be, 4 years? 21, 2022, 23, and 24, because we're not going to start till to that. So we'd have to figure out how we're going to implement, and if we can implement a schedule to be able to pay that back. I'm good with that.
Cool. Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
I'll second. And it's a motion to collect it with Burtech, correct? Yes. Not with the county.
Not with the county. At this point, it would be through Burtech if we
Okay.
move forward.
Oh,
He's not used to these sophisticated mechanisms.
Motion
jeez.
carries.
City of Indio's got a lot of technology here.
Okay, we move on to the next item, which is a public hearing. Item number 7, conduct a public hearing and approve a 3.4% increase to the gate fee at the Coachella Valley Transfer Station for fiscal year 2024-2025. You can have the staff report.
Thank you. Sarah Toyota, Environmental Programs Coordinator. This is a more routine item. This is the gate fee increase. The increase is tied to the sublease agreement, which allows increases to the consumer price index each year. This year, the increase is 3.4%, and that would bring the gate fee from $73.09 to $75.54. And that is all I have. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions from the
Just real
commissioners?
quick, Sarah, so, but that has no effect on the tipping fees or anything we just discussed, would it? It's just, ours is just a flat rate, right? Dollar ton.
Yes.
So,
Ours are what? I'm sorry. Ask.
the fee that we just talked about, if we do a CPI, it doesn't change anything we do, because I know they talked
No.
about changing theirs to a CPI also.
No. That's completely separate.
So this is just separate. This is just our tipping fees, what it goes to, and to clarify
This is
that.
the.
Yes.
What it
And
costs us.
this we already have agreements for.
Yep,
We have direct
perfect.
agreements for CPI. We've all, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, I'll open the public hearing at 10:48. Any public comments?
There are none.
Okay, and we'll close the public hearing at 10:48. Entertain a motion?
All motion to approve?
Motion in a second.
Frank, do you collect that and then give it to the county collect it and give it? Just
Motion carries.
Okay. Well, there was an error in the agenda because there's 2 items number 7, so it should have been item number 8 for the commissioner comments, just for the record. Item number 8, commissioner comments. To my right.
Very exciting about the opportunity in front of this agency in the next couple of years. It's just something that I've remembered. If we buy the property, then we no longer have to pay that lease to the county, so we'll see more revenue coming in here technically, right? And or what's that lease look like? So I mean, that's kind of
Yeah, the lease that the JPA actually pays is very low. It's $1 a year. There is an extended lease right now that we are paying because we don't take the waste to in-county landfills, but Burtech currently pays that cost.
So we get to split the buck?
We will, all the agreements, we will renegotiate.
Yeah, but there's a tipping fee that we pay the county. Yeah, we'll figure that out. Got it.
Sounds good. No, thank I'm coming. Hopefully we can resolve this and get it taken care of so everybody's happy in the end and you know, figure out what our obligation is and how we make sure it happens.
No comments from and then, you know, I just want to say thank you to staff, and hopefully we can see that item come back and see how we can, in one way, I know that it's for their administrative components, but without that administrative piece, they can't really fund that larger, you know, run those programming pieces, right, in the item that we talked about. So looking forward to see what that comes. So at this time, we'll adjourn the meeting at 10:51 a.m.